All right, this is answer key for homework number 4, and you all collected different data, so there isn't really an answer key that's going to fit for your data exactly. So I'm just going to demonstrate using the data that I created, and then you can apply the ideas to your own data. So this was the data that I made to create a little video to show you how to enter data and do a t-test in Google Sheets. So what I'm going to do, let's take a look at the homework. Excuse me. I'm going to answer these homework questions with these data. So what are the two variables you'll be working with, and what will you call them, and what kind of variables are they? So I'm going to do a t-test that compares men's height to women, or men's weight to women's weight, and these are the data. So I got two variables. One is gender, which is um, a dichotomous categorical variable, which is men and women. And the other variable is weight in pounds, and that's an interval variable. So those are my two variables. Which variable is independent and which is dependent? The independent variable is gender, and the dependent variable is weight. We want to know whether um, we can predict weight based on knowing someone's gender. This doesn't mean that gender causes weight. It's not a causal question. We just want to know whether there's a difference between men and women in their scores on the dependent variable, which is weight. Why do you think there might be an effect of the IV on the DV? I think gender might affect weight because, generally speaking, men are taller and have more mass than women, and therefore we would expect them to weigh more. Describe your sampling strategy. This is talking about like convenience, representative, random. Some of you said you just randomly selected people. That's not what random means. Random means that you make it, you ensure that every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Um, and nobody did that. And my sampling strategy was I didn't actually select a sample. I just made the data up. But your sampling strategy was generally convenience. You asked people that you knew. You asked people that were, handy, that were nearby. That's convenience sampling. Number 5, how did you decide to operationalize your dependent variable? Um, do you think you have good construct validity? Suppose that I had collected my data. Whoops, wrong thing. Suppose that I collected these data by actually asking people to report their weight. So that is how I operationalize the weight variable, is people's self-reports of their weight in pounds. I could have operationalized it as grams or kilos or whatever. I'm doing it in pounds. And the self-report does have good construct validity. I mean, it's, people are generally okay at saying what their weight is, but there's lots of reasons to think that maybe this isn't the best measurement of weight. Probably would have been more accurate to actually have people in my sample step on a scale so I could observe their weight. There's lots of reasons that people's self-reports of their weight might not be accurate. They might be lying because people don't want to say that they are too heavy, or they might not know. A lot of people, like I couldn't tell you my weight. I don't know the last time that I stepped on a scale. So most of the time, people are just sort of estimating based on what they remember from the last time they actually weighed themselves. Okay, what else we got? Uh, what will the null hypothesis be? The null hypothesis is going to be about population means. And the null hypothesis is that the population means are equal. So my null hypothesis will be that the average weight for women equals the average weight for men. My null hypothesis is about population means. So I need to say something about population means. Conduct the independent t-test using data that you collected. So I showed you how to do that before. Report the means for two groups, report the p-value for your t-test, and interpret your results. So let's do this. To calculate means, you say equals the average, and then you put in the range of scores. For here we have D2 colon D10. That is my average weight for men. And then if I want to do the same thing, calculate the average for the next column over, I just grab and drag, and there's my average weight for women. I'm going to label those. All right. And then if I want to do a t-test, I did this independent t-test. Let's see. That was the t-test for height. So I will do a different t-test for weight. Let's see. I'll do that over here. Equals t-test. And the range of scores is D2 to D11. And E2 to E11. And two-tailed. And that type of t-test, which is for equal variances or equal sample sizes. And that is my p-value. So that is a statistically significant difference because the p-value is less than 0.05. So I'm going to conclude that my results are statistically significant. I'm going to reject my null hypothesis. And I'm going to conclude that in the population, men on average weigh more than women do on average. So that's how I wrap words around my significant t-test. I'm going to make a graph. It's good to have these labels above the means because then they'll show up easily in your graph. I go to insert chart, and there is my graph, and then I can modify it a little bit. So you see how the mean for women is a really small little bar? That's because of the way that the values on the y-axis are, so I'm going to customize that. Let's see, that's my vertical axis. I'm going to make my minimum value a little bit less than 120. Let's make it 90 pounds. And see, that makes the graph look a little bit nicer. So we'll do that. Maybe give my chart a title. Gender differences in weight. And it shows up there like that. And then if I go to this little option here, which says series, I can do data labels, which will make the means show up inside of the bars so that people don't have to try and figure out what the means are. They can know exactly. I can add error bars in there. See how the error bars don't overlap? That is another way of showing that the results are statistically significant. And then I am done with my graph. And then the last question was, what would you change about the way you operationalize your variables or sampled your population if you were to do this again? If I were to do this again, I might actually collect real data. I'd do what I could to make my samples representative of the larger population instead of just taking simple convenience samples. And I might weigh my participants using a scale rather than asking them to tell me their weight. So that is how I would have done this homework, and it would have been awesome.